Hey everybody, Jake here from Bearded Gear, and I've got a first impressions to do for you. I brought this knife out with me on my camping trip to try to start putting it through its paces a little bit, and I've got my Benchmade Luku with me as well, so it's been sharing some of the responsibilities as I've been trying to experience both. But this is the TRM Field Action. I really hope I'm remembering that correctly. I don't have service here to double check, but I'm almost certain it's called the TRM Field Action. That tells you anything about how many knives I've been trying to get through lately. Anyway, this is, to my knowledge, the only fixed blade that TRM has ever produced, and they just stopped producing it. I don't know if forever, they will never produce anymore, but I got one of the final ones that they had in stock, and I was stoked to get it. They happened to be running a little bit of a promotion to blow the last few out, and I was glad to buy it from them because I just love TRM knives. I like the people behind the company. I like the knives that they make. I like that they're so all US, die hard through and through. Just a really cool company, and it's not just like the people and the way they act, but it's genuinely their products as well. Because I love the Neutron, I love the Atom. They're great knives. So I'm glad I get to own one of their fixed blades, especially if they don't make any more. That's kind of cool that I've got one of them. So this is in, oh goodness, I think it's 154 cm blade steel. It's not marked on here. I keep forgetting. I'm almost certain it's 154 cm. And we've got micarta handle scales here. This, to me, feels like burlap micarta, but I think they called it linen micarta. I don't know. You can see for yourself. It's a really kind of a rougher texture micarta than I often see from linen. It might just be the way that they're finishing it, but it's also got this cool kind of natural pattern to it, where you can see the way they've ground it. You can see the different colors of material coming through. I've still got to wear this in quite a bit. It's still a little bit dry. It hasn't soaked up that many oils from my hands. And part of why I haven't carried this more yet is because, as you can see, the sheath doesn't have a clip on it yet. I still need to figure out what retention system I'm going to use. So I've just been using it around camp a little bit as I've been out here prepping firewood, stuff like that. And I'll say this is an excellent cutter for outdoors, processing wood, stuff like that. It's got this little bit of a recurve to the blade, which I think looks great, but it's also, the edge that they've put on it is phenomenal. And TRM, every edge I've gotten from them has been very, very good. But this one, it's not thin like their EDC folding knives are. It's a nice, not a thick blade stock, but for TRM it's thick. And we've got a saber grind instead of a nice tall full flat grind like I've got on the folders I have from them. And so it's a very different setup than their folders. It feels like its own unique offering from them, and it's done well. It's fairly thick behind the edge. Sounds like Preston caught a fish over there. But it's, even though it's like kind of thick behind the edge, it's like appropriate thickness behind the edge for a robust fixed blade. I like that. I like that TRM didn't make a fixed blade and then make it a thin, super slicey little EDC fixed blade. Because to me, I don't EDC fixed blades. I use fixed blades outdoors and for harder tasks than I ask of my folding knives. So I like that this isn't a little wispy EDC fixed blade. It feels robust and capable, and it feels appropriate to me. I also like the finishing they've done on here. It's like a satin finish, but it's stone washed pretty aggressively, and so far it's hidden all of the wear. Like, I can't see anything. It looks like it did when I pulled this knife out of the packaging, which is cool to me that I've used this knife a fair bit. I'm well aware of how much stuff I've done with it, how much wood I've processed with it. I've cut some rope with it. I've done like some camp chores with this knife, and it just looks brand new still, which is great. The shaping of the handle is one thing that I find myself not totally loving, if I'm being fully honest. My first impressions are that I wish this hump didn't exist, because where it lands for me is right where my middle finger wants to go in this grip, and it's uncomfortable there. So I find myself choking back a little bit, and then this groove is too big for my pointer finger alone, but that's the way I'm having to hold it so that I avoid that hump in the middle there. I just wish it was just a neutral swoop there and didn't have that hump, to me it would feel worlds better in my hands if it didn't have that one little hump. But beyond that, the ergos are quite good, and if I choke back, it's totally doable, especially when I'm in a saber grip and I'm pressing with my thumb. It still feels very locked in. I don't feel at risk of this knife coming out of my hand, especially because this scale material is a nice level of grippiness. The jimping is not perfect. I would be fine with there not being jimping there. I shouldn't say it's not perfect, it's set in perfectly. Like the way they've actually machined it is excellent. It's a little more harsh than I prefer on a knife. I'm not a huge fan of jimping altogether, so I would prefer it if there was no jimping, especially up here. In a reverse grip, this knife actually feels better to me than it does the way my fingers land with that hump there. And there's a little jimping back here, but here it makes a little more sense to me. And I don't know, it works well for me in a reverse grip. It's totally usable that way. For draw cutting, again, it's a little bit more comfortable than it is in a standard grip somehow. I think just because that hump there lands right into like kind of a soft spot on my palm and just kind of disappears into it. So like cutting some rope yesterday, I was draw cutting through it and it went through great. It works excellent for that. So overall, it's a very nice small-ish fixed blade. This is on the smaller end of fixed blades that I would use for outdoor use, but it's still plenty of blade for almost anything that I would encounter out here. This isn't going to be like a camp chopper where I'm chopping wood, but I batoned with it a little bit to process some firewood and get some kindling going. I did a little bit of feather sticking with it and it did very well. It's just very well balanced and I like it, and I think it's kind of cool to have just like a piece of TRM history a little bit now that they're getting bigger and bigger and bigger in the realm of folders. So I like it quite a bit. My first impressions are that I am pretty sold on just about everything about it other than that little hump, but I'm going to keep testing it, finding out more and more about it, and formulating a full review here for you. It might be more than a week because this is something that I'll only be using outdoors, and I want to use it a few more times before I go ahead and jump into a full review on it. But my first impressions are, like I said, fairly strong. There's a couple just minor things that if I were to like perfect this knife for my hand, I would change a little bit. But overall, it's done very, very well. Like if you're the kind of person who doesn't have a collection of fixed blades and doesn't spend a ton of time outdoors, you want to get a fixed blade that you can take outdoors, this is a very good option. It's solid, it's well built, it's treated well, it's ground well, it comes with a nice edge on it. The blade shape is very useful for the tasks I've done with it so far. I like it in a lot of ways. It's just not perfect, and that's fair. So those will be my first impressions on the TRM Field Action. I really hope I'm not forgetting the name and calling it something that it isn't, but there you have it.